Welcome back to the study on book of Isaiah, lecture 11. Let's look at chapter 14 of this great book, Isaiah. Chapter 14, verse 12 is very much known to all of us. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, about whom I'm talking. Most of the scholars disagree with the interpretation that we do today, saying that this is referring to the Satan. But some scholars say this verse has nothing to do with the Satan. This has something to do with something else. Isaiah 14, 12 to 15 says, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest side of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the cloud. I will be like the Most High, yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. I'm not reading the entire chapter, just 3 verses. Let's look at Lucifer. Does the Bible reveal the fall of Satan in Isaiah 14? It's a question. Scholars have been debating on this. The literature that I have given you talk about all these theories. I'm not going to get into all those theories. We don't have that much time to discuss. But Lucifer, the association of Satan with Lucifer comes from Jerome's Latin translation of Isaiah 14:12. I read that Jerome's Latin translation of Isaiah 14:12. That's the reason the word Lucifer is seen in that verse. But otherwise, it's called as a morning star. Directly, this translation has given Lucifer. Hebrew word Hillel, shining one, means Venus. Actually, the word instead of Lucifer is a shining star. The Latin word Lucifer means light, brighter, morning star, and Venus. It is a kind of a word. The Latin word is Lucifer for the Hebrew word Hillel. Hillel means shining one, a Venus. When the Latin Vulgate Bible, when they translated, they use this word Lucifer, means light bringer, morning star. The word Lucifer means another name for Satan. Particularly today's English dictionary says Lucifer is another name for Satan. The planet Venus, when it rises in the morning, also called Lucifer. A match struck by rubbing it on a rough surface. The content of this chapter, if we look at the content of Isaiah, here we see Isaiah's mission in chapter 1. We have seen the punishment of nations can be seen in this context, chapter 13 to 23. Punishment to Moab, punishment to Damascus, punishment to Egypt. As I said, God is the God of all nations. He is the God of all nations. He encourages, he dethrones, and he brings people to the throne. Woes upon Babylon can be seen here, Isaiah 13 and 14 chapters. Burden, menace, and we see the destruction. So God's people blessed. Let's come to chapter 14, verse 1 to 2. Babylon captures Judah. 70 years passes now. Medes conquer Babylon. God's people return home. All that history has been prophesied by prophet Isaiah. What an amazing prophet. So, the content here is God's people celebrate the fall of Babylon. Isaiah 14, 3 to 23, if you read the entire word, all the word says, God's people celebrate the fall of Babylon. Lucifer is a symbol of the wicked king of Babylon. The actual meaning is the Lucifer is a symbol for the wicked king of Babylon. We can see it in Isaiah 14:4 with 4 and 12. Arrogance of Babylon's kings can be seen here. Lucifer is a man who made the earth tremble. The Babylonian king has made the earth to be tremble. He overthrew cities and did not release captives. There was so much terror and wiping out humanity. The Babylonian king created so much terror. Type of his dishonor and death, not buried like other kings, makes clear that he is talking about Babylon and her evil kings. The prophet is talking about Babylon and her kings. That is the context of the entire chapter we're in, the Lucifer context. Yes, what about the Lucifer then? How do we interpret? Many evangelical preachers take that words and say the Lucifer has fallen. There is a lot of in that demonology, we discuss it. Of course, there is the prophecy can be twofold, as I said. The association of Satan with Lucifer comes from Jerome's Latin translation of Isaiah 14:12, as I already said. The Hebrew word Hell has been translated as Lucifer in Latin when the Latin Vulgate Bible came into existence. Many connect the fall of Venice in Isaiah with Satan's fall. Today, many evangelical preachers connect this fall of Venice in Isaiah with the Satan's fall that we read in Luke 10:18, Revelation 12:9. Jesus was not, however, discussing the original fall of Satan in Luke 10:18. 10:18, if we read, Jesus himself, oh, how did you fall? What about Isaiah 14:10? Does it describe the initial fall of Satan? These are the questions come in our mind. The context of Isaiah 14 specifies who Lucifer is, the coming Babylon kingdom. Who is actually the prophet clearly says that the Lucifer is the one, the coming Babylonian king. Nobody knows that there will be a Babylonian king who will come. So he prophesies about the coming Babylonian king. The first 12 chapters of Isaiah describes God's judgment of Judah and Jerusalem. Isaiah 13-23 are oracles of judgment against the nations, beginning with Babylon. The message of Isaiah 14:12 is directed at the king of Babylon. Many evangelical scholars also agree with this, saying that this verse 14:12 is directed at the king of Babylon. Must be Nebuchadnezzar. The use of stellar relating to stars imagery is found throughout the oracle here, throughout the oracles here in this. Satan, though likely encouraging the pride of Babylon, is not himself Lucifer. Isaiah 14:12-15 uses graphic language to describe the power of God and pride of man. What can we learn from this study? These are the lessons we can learn. We should recognize that God is sovereign over every person and nation. That pride always leads to destruction. What can we learn from this? Pride leads to destruction. Even when Obadiah, and Proverbs also talked about it. I don't have time to discuss all that. So this is about a short lecture on chapter 14, the context of Lucifer and the valuable interpretations. But there is an allegorical interpretation which was very much famous during the Middle Ages. I think when we did a course on history, we discussed about it. So the allegorical interpretation, particularly developed during the Middle Ages, they have used all these allegorical interpretations, interpreting this Lucifer to the Satan who fell from heaven. Even the Middle Ages, and particularly during Renaissance, the writers, the Renaissance art, the writers, particularly English poetry and prose. John Milton also talks about Lucifer and his fall and all that. A lot of literature has come on this Lucifer. We keep reading and try to understand even the allegorical context. People can use it, interpret it, connecting to Jesus' sayings about the fall of the devil, and also the word that we see in the Revelation also. Let me stop it here.